first thing I really want to start with, and it's really at the heart of everything, which is not only as actors, but as human beings, there are things we have power over and there are things that we don't. And as actors, during the audition and in all the prep work for the audition, we want to learn and humbly train ourselves to focus on what we have actual power over and to surrender what we don't. You know, it's a crazy time right now. And I know many of you are going through a great deal of hardship economically, some of you physically. A lot of us have loved ones who are really hurting, who might have died over the past month or so, or be very ill. And my heart goes out to anyone in that category, and really to all of us. It's an incredibly challenging time. And I think it's also a very awakening time, because in my classes and in the work I've done one-on-one with folks, what I'm seeing is that many of us are experiencing a reawakening in regard to what matters most and what we actually have power over. You know, this COVID thing hit, and suddenly many of us are really confronted with, oh my God, death, security, money. What should I be doing? Where should I put my time and energy? Do I work on auditions? Do I not work on auditions? Should I still be an actor? Should I not be an actor? You know, NCIS is seeing 100,000 actors are sending things to NCIS. Should I work on that? Should I not work on that? Like, what do I do? What do I do? And we suddenly feel like there's so much that's not in our power. But those things have never been in our power. Death, security, the head knowledge, the perfect get it right knowledge of what I should be doing, result, controlling result. These things are not in our power. They never have been. And I'm a big fan of the Stoic philosophers. It sounds pretentious. I really just mean two books. There are two books I've read that I love. One I have right here. It's by a guy named Epictetus. This version is called The Art of Living. It's sometimes called the Enchiridion. There's many different names for it. I love this book. There's another book by a guy named Marcus Aurelius. It's often called Meditations. Big fan of both these books. And they're just one book. Epictetus wrote one book. Marcus Aurelius wrote one book, many different translations. But the heart of their philosophy, and this is what Epictetus says, is that, as I've been saying, as human beings, there are things we have power over and there are things that we don't. And if we focus on what we have power over, we lead happy, meaningful lives. And if we focus on what we don't have power over, we drive ourselves batshit crazy and we're miserable. That's my translation, but that's basically what they say. True for actors and true for human beings. And what the Stoics say, the only things that we do have power over, in my experience as a professional actor, as a coach, as a teacher, as a man, a human being, and in working with many, many people over the years, my experience has borne this out, that what I'm about to say, in my opinion and experience, is true. The only things we do have power over are what we're currently moving towards and our opinion about it. And that's it. What we're currently moving towards, or what we're moving away from sometimes, but for right now, let's say what we're currently moving towards and our opinion about it. And that's all we have power over. We don't have power over most levels of our own thought, our feelings, anything going outside anywhere in the world, of course, any result. We have no power over result, or of course, what the other is thinking, what the other is feeling. Whatever we're doing will make the other think or feel result. We don't have power over result. This is the number one trap I find with the self-tape audition, with any audition, with the way the actor is approaching his or her career in general. We become, and it's human nature to do this, we're not bad for doing it. It's just what happens. And I believe it's the human journey to begin to become free from this. but we become obsessed with result. The audition for many actors is a futile attempt to get it right. I want to get it right. I want to know what they want. Someone tell me what they want with the self-tape. Is it here? What do they want? What's the backdrop? And with the acting, what do they want? What are they looking for? What do they want? What's going to get me the job? What thing can I do or manipulate to get it right? And then I'll act. and then I'll have fun. And then I'll dazzle with my honesty. But first I need to get it right. And we can't get it right. For example, this webinar that I'm giving right now, the only thing in the world I have power over right now is moving towards giving the webinar and the attitude or opinion I have about it, right? I can have the attitude or opinion that this is a good thing I'm doing. I'm looking to be of service. I'm approaching it with an attitude of earnest simplicity. It's a good thing I'm doing. Attempting to awaken something in the viewer, promote what I do. It's a good thing. Keep moving towards it. And I've given these talks many times, so I know how to do it. And even though I can't see you guys, and this will come in later on today when we actually start to play with the audition in real time, I can't see you right now, but I can imagine some people that I'm talking to. Some loving, good people that I'm talking to. I can imagine them, and I can imagine attempting to connect with them, with you, right? So this is all I have power over, is what I'm doing. Now, if I start to try and control all the weird, insecure feelings and thoughts that I have while I'm doing this, or I start to try to wonder what you guys might be feeling or thinking, or if I start to focus on the result, is this making sense to people? Will it make sense? Is it technically happening? What's going on? What is it going to mean for people? If I focus on any of that, on anything except just imperfectly moving towards what I'm doing, if I start to do any of that, the webinar would soon look like this. And it wouldn't go so good, right? You guys would say, this is a very self-conscious guy. He keeps just staring into space, or he keeps going. Does that make sense? You get it? Do you get it? Right? Self-consciousness. I used to think of self-consciousness as my greatest enemy. I used to think both as an actor and a man, I was good to go until this wave of self-consciousness came upon me, right? And when I was younger, like 1 out of 20 auditions would be great because I would be miraculously free from the self-consciousness. But when the self-consciousness got me, I was effed. It was done. And I used to think of self-consciousness as this emotional, psychological storm that would just grab me and I'd be lost in it. The way I perceive self-consciousness today is that it's attempting the impossible. I get very self-conscious when I'm attempting to control something that's not in my power. When I'm trying to bring order to my feelings or my thoughts, or figure out what you're feeling or thinking, or I have a fixed interest on the result, that's when self-consciousness happens and the cartoon smoke starts coming out of my ears, because I'm attempting to do something that I cannot do. I'm attempting the impossible. All I have power over is moving towards, is creating. It's another big theme of what we're going to talk about today. And when I say we, I mean I. I'm going to talk about moving towards is creating. We have power over creation. You can create something with your self-tape auditions. You can't get it right. You can't guarantee you're going to book the job. You can't control the result, but you can create. So that's what we have power over. Now, some of you may say, like, well, no, I think my approach to acting is that I have power over my feelings. That's what I do as an actor, or thoughts. Like I conjure certain thoughts, or I conjure certain feelings, and that leads to this performance that I'm trying to do. That's what acting is all about, the control of feeling and thought. This is probably a good time to say that everything I'm going to talk about today is just my experience and some of my opinion, hopefully more experience than opinion, but both my experience and opinion this is just for me. and I'm going to be 49 years old this year, and I've been acting since I was 7, professionally since I was 19, and coaching and teaching actors for over 20 years. My experience is actors can't control their feelings. Actors can't control most levels of thought. And so many actors are filled with self-hatred because they're attempting the impossible. Now, you may disagree. You may say, no, Greg, I think actors can control their feelings. That's what it must be. That's what I've heard actors say that, or I think I've experienced that. Look, again, I've been doing this for a long time. And for many years, early in my life, the first half of my life, we can say, I was all about trying to control my emotions, both as a man, as an actor. So believe me, if it could be done, I would have found a way to do it. But even if there are some, maybe you're like, well, Greg, you're not that good, so you don't. But there are some actors can control feelings. That's what it's about. Well, if actors could control their feelings, if we could master that ability, then God knows I would wake up every morning, and the first thing I would do upon awakening is use my acting skills to conjure happiness. Just wake up in the morning and, oh, let me use my acting skills to feel very, very, very happy about my life. And then I'd come downstairs, and my daughter and my wife and my cats and my dog, and I'm just like sharing my blissed out happiness that I've created with them. And then, maybe when I leave the house, I use my acting ability to create a sense of excitement and danger to make the day interesting. And then, when I come back home, more happiness and bliss with my family. Maybe I put in a little melancholy right before I come home just to make me appreciate the other feelings. And then, end the day by using my acting technique to conjure tranquility and peace. We laugh, right? And it's funny, but I think it's true. If you have a friend who's a magician, they'll do a magic trick with a fork or whatever at a party. If someone's a gymnast, they get jobs as action stars, or at a party, they can stand on their head in a weird way or balance on their thumb. Like these are demonstrable skills that they can use. So if actors had the power of emotional control, God knows we would use it in our real lives. And if actors had the power of emotional control, then we would be the most emotionally balanced people on the face of the earth. This is not true. No one thinks of Johnny Depp and thinks emotional balance, real like balanced kind of guy. We are emotionally unbalanced. It's one of the characteristics, perhaps one of the defining characteristics about actors. So my point is, we want to give up the ghost, from my point of view, on trying to control emotion. Okay? What we can do is focus on what we are attempting to do to the other, on what we're moving towards. And I'm going to talk a lot about that, but going back to this idea of trying to control emotions, it's really key. And it's this first main area that I want to dig into and give you guys some practical tools to work with what I'm going to go into. Because in my own experience, personally, and again, working with actors, the biggest block in regard to the self-tape audition, the actual audition, the approach to the career itself, the biggest block for actors is obsessive fear. They don't know what to do with their obsessive fears. We get paralyzed, or we get lost in attempting to manage our obsessive fears, and we can't actually do anything because we're waiting for the fear to leave or find some way to vanquish it instead of work with it. Okay? I think a lot of us as actors will often berate ourselves for being lazy. Why am I not doing more self-tapes? Why are there all these contests or opportunities? Or I could do more, I could take classes, or I know I could do a monologue every night, I could tape myself every day. Why am I'm just so lazy, I'm so lazy. Maybe some of us, but I think laziness is often misunderstood. What's really going on, I think, for most of us is that we're not doing the work because we fear the obsessive fear. We fear the fear. We know we're going to get lost in managing our fears and managing our feelings, and it's not going to go very well. So we're better off just not doing the thing or going into fantasy. Fantasizing about things working out okay instead of actually doing something. This is also why a big part of my audition technique is helping actors make an imperfect, imperfect and unique unto them, imperfect, but actual technique. Like I have actors in my classes actually write down, they keep a notebook, they write down the current imperfect steps of their audition process so they have something to do. So when they get an audition, they can open it up and they can follow the steps and they can learn what works for them and what doesn't over time, but they can actually do something. I put forth that most actors from the second they get in the audition are just fantasizing about the audition going well instead of actually doing any work, or the work that they're doing are futile attempts to control result and get some kind of sense that the result will go the way they want. Meaning, you know, going back to what the Stoics say, right? Like there's this little bear here on my desk. Okay, my daughter gave me these bears a long time ago and told me these would be good for my students and clients. And it turns out they are, because I use them all the time to demonstrate things. But that little bear on my desk, right? I can't promise you guys, I can't guarantee that bear will be in my left hand in under 10 seconds. It is, I just did it, but I can't guarantee it, right? Highly likely that if I really aim for it, I can have that little bear in this hand in under 10 seconds, but I could knock the table, right? I could actually miss. The earthquake could happen. I can't guarantee that little bear will be in this hand in under 10 seconds. All I can do is move towards it, okay? And this is not moving towards it. What are you doing, Greg? This is part of my process. No, it's not. That's not part of my process. Oh, that is part of my process. I'm actually doing it. And even something as silly as picking up this little red bear, even when I do this example for you guys, a little bit of that self-consciousness can begin to creep in, right? Because I'm like, is this example going to make sense for them? What if I don't make the bear? What if I miss it? Meaning, I believe deep down, all of us know what we have power over and what we don't. So if I really move towards the bear, part of me knows I may never get there. So fear and doubt are going to creep in if I'm really moving towards it, because I'm hit with the truth that it may not happen. Where there's not the fear and doubt is in my mind before moving towards. It's going to be so great when I pick up that bear. I'm going to pick up other stuff after the bear. And these 500 people watching this webinar, they're going to go like, Greg is really good at picking shit up. He's a picker-upper. And then it'll lead to me winning awards for picking up, right? That's fantasy, and that feels good. Fantasy feels good because it's fantasy. So many actors, instead of actually doing work in regard to what they have power over on the audition, end up just fantasizing because that feels better. So we want to actually move towards. So if we're really going to move towards, we have to accept the fact that for many of us, we have these obsessional fears around our acting career and around the audition. And the kind of fear I'm talking about is not fight or flight. Most of us, I think, feel pretty good, actually, about our relationship with fight or flight. Like, if there's a fire, we do something. If we, see a baby in need, we rush to get it. The kind of fear that jams us up as actors is this obsessional kind of fear, and there's many ways to talk about it. I call it old beliefs. That's the name I give for it. I like that term because they're old, these fears that are blocking us, and we believe them. These fears are beliefs we have. But the good news is they're not actually true, which is very good news. But we believe they are true. And that's what's jamming us up. Or we can say we're trying to unbelieve them, and we can't. So these, and they're buried, meaning there's often like a fear on top of the fear, on top of the fear, on top of the fear, and they go back towards childhood. They're rooted in childhood, many of them. And we're not even aware that they're coming into play so much of the time. Meaning these old beliefs are often triggered by something in real time. I mean, they're always triggered by something in real time, but it's often something seemingly innocuous, or something that we rationally know shouldn't be making us this crazy or this terrified. So it engenders even more self-hatred because we're loath to admit that it's even happening, right? So you may sit down to go, oh, I need to work on that self-tape audition. This is the time I'm going to start working the self-tape audition. So I want to look at the script, and you're going to pick up the script to start working on it. And suddenly you just want to kill yourself, or you want to vomit, or you just like hate everything, or you're just feeling freaked the F out and you don't know why. And you're loath to talk to a friend about it or even admit it to yourself, because it seems so irrational that I'm just going to sit down and start to memorize lines for a self-tape audition, and I feel like I'm in a war zone, or I feel like I'm going to have a mental breakdown. What the hell is wrong with me, right? Or another example can be, you might be at a party and meet someone and they say, hey, you're an actor, right? God, my friend is directing this movie. You're just perfect for this part. You got the right look, the right attitude. Let me give you his email, his Insta, hit him up tonight and tell him I sent you. I know he'll give you an audition. And so later that night or the next day, you're like, oh yeah, let me reach out to that person. And you're about to do it. And you stop and go, I'm losing it. Why can't I just send an email? Or we can have a bunch of defense mechanisms built up, and we don't even realize that we're that afraid. It's like time to send the email and we go, yeah, I got to send that email to that producer, but I think I need to work out first. You haven't worked out yet today. Let me go work out. I'll do that later. And it doesn't happen. And I think we've all had one of those experiences or can relate to it where, let's say, you ran into that friend at the party who said, yeah, email this director guy I know. And you bump into them again 6 months later and they say, hey, whatever happened? Did you reach out to that director I told you to reach out to? And we're horrified because the truth suddenly hits us that no, I didn't do it. And I've been unconsciously avoiding it for reasons I don't even understand. So another way to talk about these old beliefs is they are obsession. And if we are in obsession, it's never about what it appears to be about. So if you're obsessed with the audition, if you're obsessed with your acting career, it's not really about the audition or your acting career, which is why this is so important as the first step to working on the self-tape audition or any audition. Because if we don't realize our obsessive fear is not actually about the audition, and we just try to power through, or we try to master that fear, it's just not going to go so well. If you've ever had somebody romantically obsessed with you, like you're on the second or third date and you're telling them it's not really going to work and you don't want to see them again, and they're crying and they're telling you like, how can you do this? I love you. I feel real love. And you're, come on, give it another go, man. If you ever had that happen, you don't have much sympathy for that person, right? You may decide to be kind and gentle with them, but it's really offensive, because what you want to say to them is like, we've only been out twice. You don't know me. You can't be in love with me. There's no real intimacy here. You need to work on your daddy issues or your mama issues or something, because this ain't about me. We know that when we're the object of obsession. It ain't about me. You need to discover what it's really about. And we all know, and a lot of what I'm talking about here today is hard to see in ourselves, easy to see in the friend. So we all know when you have a friend who calls you or is with you and they're like, they're in this kind of state, right? They're like, look, I have this self-tape, so I'd like you to watch this self-tape audition before I sent it out. I've got 5 takes I'd like you to watch. Well, there's 7, but maybe if you have time to watch 7, but at least 5. And the thing is, like, I'm not sure if I've got one we're here and I'm here, and I came at it from 3 different angles, and I'm not sure what my agent really wants, because last time my agent sent me an email, there was only 3 sentences, and I could tell he was upset with me. So I don't know if he's even like, if I can even ask him quite. When a friend is in that state, you don't want to look at the audition. You don't want them to look at the audition. What you want to say to them is, do nothing with this audition. Don't show it to anybody. Stop everything you're doing. Don't call your agent. Stop. Stop. Something is going on. And I think we know intuitively when it's the other, this is not about the audition. They got bigger fish to fry and they can't see it. Well, what is that bigger fish that needs to be fried or integrated? Well, that's what we want to deal with.